Not legit.
Look, do I even have to say it? It seems like adult animation had a terrible rep amongst its adored peers for a very long time. Quote-unquote kids animation was revered for bringing long-form storytelling back to the medium in the US. Anime is still taking the world by storm, and theatrical animated movies seem to draw in crowds who are moved by the stories at hand. Like Inside Out, you know what I mean? It's like, yeah, I remember that. I remember being a kid with emotions. But adult animation was often reduced to ugly, cheap comedy in the eyes of consumers. The assumption that every show was just trying to be Family Guy or South Park, crude humor with like no substance. And for a while, a lot of the shows that tried to break that mold tended to fail for one reason or another, not resonating with the mainstream audience. Until 2021, a year that changed adult animation as we know it, with numerous projects becoming breakout hits, smashing records, and leading viewers to give this demographic of the medium a second chance. So today, I want to recap a few of the adult animated series that dropped last year and their contributions to improving the landscape. This is just our opinions though, so if you get mad that something's there or not there, well, what are you gonna do? Dislike the video? It's not like I'm gonna know what that means anymore. Thanks, YouTube. Also, spoilers ahead, pretty much. I try not to, but there's some. Alright, let's get down to business. Like adults do. Get it? Real quick, before I get to the next show, I'm gonna give a special thanks to today's sponsor, NordVPN. While surfing the internet, cybersecurity should be the top priority. With NordVPN, you can shield your personal data from hackers and internet service providers, protected by the next level encryption. It's super easy to use, as you can either connect with one click or enable auto connect for zero-click protection. You can also use it on up to 6 devices, your computer, phone, and even Android TV. They got your bases covered. And who could forget one of the greatest features of NordVPN? Access to region-locked content. You might be scrolling on social media and see a post mentioning a favorite show or movie of yours is finally on Netflix, only to fire it up and realize whoever mentioned that lives in another country. Well, with Nord, you'll be able to pick the region you want just like that. The folks over at NordVPN are offering a stellar 2-year plan with a bonus month for free over at nordvpn.com/roundtablevpn. And with a 30-day money-back guarantee, it's entirely risk-free. Again, that's nordvpn.com/roundtablevpn. Or you can click the link in the description down below. Once again, thanks to Nord for sponsoring this video. Alright, back to the animation.
Do not miss dinner with my mom on Thursday if you value everything you hold dear, Mark Grayson.
Invincible so far has been the most exciting unexpected hit of 2021. I guess it's because animation fans were used to the outliers of animation getting swept under the rug by audiences who were simply not giving the medium the same level of respect as anime or CW dramas. But all of a sudden, Invincible, of all things, an Amazon Prime adaptation of the popular cult comic series, was just about everywhere. Now, was this due to the average viewer already having an open mind towards gritty superhero shows thanks to Prime's other hit series, The Boys, another personal favorite of mine? Probably. Was it the heapings of gore that you just didn't see in other comic book cartoons? Even the ones that do have blood? Yeah, I could see that. Was it because of the insane memeability? Definitely. They had J.K. Simmons voicing Omni-Man, for Christ's sake. Everything he touches is not only destined to be audio gold, but just a gold mine of meme potential. Above everything else, it was also because of the subversive nature of the show. I mean, it was an anti-superhero story with as much gratuitous violence as they wanted. It had a main character whose coming-of-age journey sees him getting kicked in the ass every episode, as those closest to his father, his literal idol, uncover the dark truth behind a terrible massacre and the true nature of this beloved Superman-like icon. Complete with the celebrity voice cast and mostly solid animation, I mean, how could it flop? The first episode was enough to pull just about any viewer in. While the setup of Mark's story is a little paint by numbers, there's enough hints that this is going to be more than a son trying to break out of his father's shadow through Omni-Man's aloof nature.
I had a pretty interesting day.
Sorry I'm late.
Guess who's finally getting his powers?
Oh, that's great. son, just great.
There's a few instances in the pilot where his behavior actually gives the viewers a sense of uneasiness, but most may not think much of it at the time. So when the final scene hits, oh, it really hits. The writing is also effective in the fact that what shocks Mark also tends to shock the viewer too. We never really get the run-of-the-mill superhero story Mark and the audience alike were ready to dive into. We get to take a darker, harsher, and brutally honest portrayal of the superhero life. How bleak is it to try to do your part in a society when you, your comrades, and your adversaries are capable of snapping citizens in half without even trying, without even wanting to? Invincible is about fragility. Humanity is portrayed as physically and mentally fragile, giving the gore a sense of purpose, especially when this physical and mental fragility comes together effortlessly in the season finale. However, it was refreshing to see just how big the show got. By the end of season 1, you could not escape the show if you tried. It was all over Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, TikTok, your weird older cousin's Snapchat story. And something that did wonders to help its reach is just how Amazon rolled it out, with weekly releases. Instead of people binging it in one go and talking about it for 2 weeks tops, we had a season of Friday premieres that let the show dominate social media conversations for each individual episode. It's almost like this model is genius and should not have been thrown out the window. It gave a lot of people time to speculate over the show's biggest questions. Why did Omni-Man murk the Guardians of the Globe? What's really going on with Viltrum? Should Mark and Amber even bother to make their relationship work, since Amber kinda sucks? Should Robot be put on a list, if you catch my drift? A lot of people are here for the blood and guts, no doubt about it, but I can't really blame them. The train scene got like 10 rewatches for me alone, but I think people stick around for the fact that we haven't really seen a show like this, at least not in a long time. Also, can we talk about the art style? It kind of gives me complicated feelings. The show looks like a Man of Action cartoon, like if Generator Rex turned into an episode of Dexter, like if Ben 10 snapped one day and just went full Akira. God, I actually want to see that really bad. I want to see the government try to take the Omnitrix from an unhinged Ben Tennyson. That would be the best. Thankfully, season 2 and 3 are already on the way, and I'm looking forward to see where the story goes from here, especially because there's just so much rich and extensive lore to go off of. This is a full-fledged comic series that ran for years. There's a lot they could do with this. You know, I could always read the comics, and honestly, I have, but maybe they'll switch things up. That's what they did with The Boys. Didn't think of that over there in the comments, did ya? If you haven't seen Invincible, do yourself a favor and give it a watch.
Will I ever be able to pick her up again?
Only if you start exercising.
So there's nothing I can do.
J.G. Quintel's 2020 follow-up to the era-defining regular show had a long journey to go before we ever even got to see it. Network delays, the first trailer being basically fake, and a shift over to the, at the time, brand new HBO Max streaming service all led to the show practically becoming a myth among animation fans. A distant rumor, an urban legend, a faint whisper, and then all at once, we finally had it. And yeah, it was pretty good. Look, Close Enough is a show I appreciate for not trying to be bigger than itself. It's the regular show formula with an updated and, I think, more refreshing cast of 30-somethings living in LA, starring a young couple trying to raise their daughter. That's a focus we haven't seen in quite a while regarding adult animation. Usually if we see parents as the protagonists, they got like a bunch of kids and there's an age range, but no, this is just a young couple trying to raise a young daughter, and yeah, I've not seen this at all, except for, I don't know, fucking Rugrats, but not really. If I had to put it into words, it's kind of a love child of Friends, Raising Hope, and regular show, and yeah, it's pretty entertaining. The show isn't perfect. God, what is perfect? Besides like Nutella and, I don't know, a warm shower when it's cold outside, you know what I mean? But no, there's some legit production stuff. These first few seasons were made to be 22 minutes and then were literally cut down to 11 minutes, creating some pacing issues and awkward moments. But hey, Twitter references, sex clowns, those are actually pretty funny. That last one actually kind of makes me uncomfortable. With the recent wave of nostalgia for regular show, it's great to have a spiritual successor for the grown-ups. Now they can finally just smoke weed. Jesus, no more soda or wings? What was up with these metaphors? Also, Benson was an alcoholic. We should all be able to say it. Season 2's big improvement is that a lot of the episodes are focused on characters aside from Josh and Emily. There's a Bridget episode, there's an Alex episode. We get like unfiltered Rugrats with a Candace episode. Even the landlord Pearl and her son Randy get some time to shine.
It's more like burping the earth.
What would you know about burping anything? Mom!
Stop getting hung up on the fact that these guys abandoned me multiple times as a child.
This was the season we needed to get invested in everyone, to care about them on a genuine level, as you do with great shows. I also feel like the show provides some great commentary on obstacles you'll face in your adult life that other adult animated sitcoms don't shed light on even remotely, or pull off nearly as well. Gym culture, toxic best friends, phone addiction, getting ghosted, it's all here, and I love watching it. It's way more on the nose than regular show, but considering the vibes of both shows, I don't really mind it. I'm a 20-something. I don't want a parody of social media and movies that vaguely sound like the real deal. If you're gonna dunk on Instagram, just dunk on Instagram. Seriously, am I the only one that just gets annoyed when they're like, face slap, or like, Instabook? I'm like, dude, we all know what you're talking about. Are you afraid to get sued? Put on your big boy pants. HBO Max doesn't release their numbers or anything, but the series seems to be a hit. We can probably expect season 3 at some point this year, and now that they're aware that each episode is only 11 minutes and have figured out the characters, I really hope they turn it into the most refined and polished version of Close Enough yet. Despite being rougher on the edges, the show's hilarious and takes advantage of the medium. I'm sure the older you are, the more relatable it becomes, and it definitely warrants a binge. Just throw it on, don't be nitpicky, and you'll have a great time.
This is a lot of dead meat. Not creepy at all.
Alright, this is the most underrated on the list. Possibly the most underrated of an entire generation. Look, Olin Rogers' sci-fi epic had humble origins. Beginning as a YouTube pilot that was picked up after being seen by Conan O'Brien. No, literally. Season 1 was highly anticipated to mixed reviews and some pretty legitimate critiques. Mostly with the character of Gary himself, but Olin in the show took every single critique to heart and used it as a chance to legitimately improve the show. To the point that season 2 was almost an entirely different show with a brand new cast, digging into the wider story that Olin had up his sleeve the entire time. Season 3 was the strongest yet, with them actually in the titular final space. Desperate to find a way out, they kept things interesting and fresh. Without turning too hard into spoiler territory, this is one of my favorite sci-fi stories in recent years. It managed to set itself apart from other space-oriented adult cartoons like The Elephant in the Room, Futurama, by treating itself as a comedy drama with real tension, dramatic tones, and some great action. It uses its setting to the fullest, introducing cool original worlds and characters with appealing designs. There's space fights through solar flares, collectathons, and twists at every corner. The greatest tragedy is that they had to end it on a cliffhanger, with the series unfortunately being cancelled, seemingly a victim of the merger, though I'll give them credit. The show never really caught on as much as I wanted it to. At least it's not as much as it deserved to. Some people sleep on beds. Y'all were sleeping on Final Space. With the show now available on HBO Max in its entirety, I hope it's able to find a new audience, and I mean, who knows what could happen from here. Olin seems hopeful about getting a proper conclusion someday, and honestly, yeah, we've seen this happen before. I could totally see enough people finally discovering the show post-cancellation and expanding its cult fan base, and then one day, maybe next year, maybe 10 years from now, that cult fan base will be noticed by executives who are like, whoa, why don't we just reboot this? And then it'll finally get the ending it deserves. I mean, that happens literally all the time, and they reboot things that fully had an ending anyways, so it's great that it had 3 seasons at all. I just think that this incredible story fell at the fate of its own ambitiousness. So yeah, it definitely deserves to get its full story told. I hope it does one day. If you're in for a Western-made linear story, even if it currently lacks a conclusion, check it out. You might be surprised on how much it grows on you over time. The show gets better every season, and pretty soon you also will be mad at all your friends for not watching it.